Some specials out of Brazil for you for this YCS. That also includes heroes, some stun, actually quite a lot of interesting stun, and another look at the Metaltronics tech choice. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more Horus content. You might not have known this, but Heroes actually got 33rd place out of this weekend's YCS, and this is actually quite wonderful to see. I'm actually very happy to actually see Heroes kind of performing here. It does stink that they did manage to get 33rd though, you know, being that one slot off, but unfortunately somebody has to get 33rd, and it just so happens that our challenger was in fact the 33rd. Now we are playing the Neos package in here. I think most of the builds at this point have adapted towards the one Neos, because being able to toggle through, you know, a lot of the little options down here, and also the Shining Flare Wingman being one of those super boss monsters that you can typically set up, is extremely good. Most of the main deck here though is going to be honestly extremely normal, though we have the crossouts down here on the side for the nibs. Nib has been a little bit question of this format, I think, for a few people, you know, not really seeing the card stick around, which is actually kind of cool to see. And to the question of, do we still play the Dark Angel or not? It is down here in the side deck for this, which means depending on the matchup, if you need to have the Dark Angel be brought in, you can definitely have this card be here for when you need. You got to remember, having this card in your opponent's field continuously negating spell cards is actually a huge thing for you. Don't underestimate this. Most of the extra deck down here is some pretty standard stuff. I do like the fact we're actually... we have Divine Wind in here. That's a new one. Only the one mash change. We're still focusing on the one Miracle Feed. Like I said, most of these ratios are going to be completely normal for what you want to see. And I guess maybe the double droll with the double nib might be something somebody might question a little bit of, but that's fine. I also read the other day they're talking about Liquid Soldier's cuttable, but in this scenario, I think you still want to have the Liquid Soldier in the deck so you can still kind of capitalize and make the most out of your plays. But outside of that, this is all amazing to see. Now, there was another little deck that creeped on into top 32 that personally caught my attention, and it is the Horus Control pile. Now, I'm very, very intrigued by the ratios here, maximizing on the Majesty's Fiends and the Vanity's Fiends here. That way, you want these cards to be the pressure points for the format. Now, unfortunately, we have seen time and time again, you know, an imperm on one of the two of these can just kind of lose you the game. That's kind of why, if you're playing these cards and you're putting that pressure on your opponent, you want to make sure that, you know, you're going to be good to go. Now, this build is also playing the Secret Village in the main deck, and by having the Secret Village, you got to remember, hey, look, Imseti's a spellcaster. All right, you just got to be able to plop out the Imseti. Typically, if you open up like the Super Optimal Gas, you can probably get Imseti set up with the Giant Trainer and the Secret Village, depending on whatever else on the rest of this you do open up. I also see here we are playing Race Sloth in here, which gives you free access into the Fenrir's. That's, I feel like, pretty normal at this point. And of course, we're doing set rotation with, you know, your choice of field spells. Nothing really too crazy here. Down here in the side deck, we are playing Ultimate Slayers with, you guessed it, the Evil Twin Kishi Sekil. It's been a little while since we've seen Trouble Sunny here actually doing some sort of plays. We also do have the Bucephalus here, and we're also playing the Overlord of Heliopolis. Some other major things here, we've gutted out the package for the Rainbow Bridge that you would typically use to get to the Crystal Beast stuff, so we're shaving off that fat, and instead, you know, we have more defensive options in here, like the books, to kind of make sure we can do our thing. It's actually kind of important. I also see we have a Mono Awado down here in the side deck. That's actually freaking hilarious. The fact that this deck has some of the most interesting utility options for a rank 8 pile. I like this. This is the fact that you can challenge the meta with some interesting tech choices is good. Now, this was an anti-meta deck that showed up by one of the most well-respected duelists out of the community down there. And I will say that it was actually pretty cool to see. And you guys know I'm a huge stun fan, all right? So when we can see some pretty cool things doing some plays, okay. So this is actually playing Emancipator. For instance, so excavate the top cards of your deck equal to the number of rock monsters you control +5, and if you do, add to your hand one excavated rock monster with a level equal to or lower than the excavated cards, and place the remaining cards on the bottom of the deck. For the rest of this turn, you cannot spell summon except for rocks. Well, this is intended to go find you Drought and Fossil Dynas, basically in the top 5 of your deck, and then you can go ahead and deploy a barrier statue on your opponent. I actually really like the idea of this. Being able to constantly roll out one of these big cards is going to be very good. Now, we also have Clockwork Knight in here as well. Basically being able to force everything into a machine monster is kind of an interesting little choice. I definitely didn't consider this. And of course, one of the biggest stun tech choices that we have seen in the more modern era, the decisive battle of Gondola here, being able to put that protection on you is very good. I also see, because we are playing Jowgen down here, you do have the Secret Village of the Spellcasters doing its thing. Yes, we've seen how good Secret Village can be. Who doesn't love the fact that you can just tell your opponent no spell cards, nope, sorry, with a free Jowgen loaded up on the field. I love protection. Like, that's so good. Also, Storming Mirror Forces. A lot of other interesting little tech choices down here. The extra deck is also going to be some increasingly basic stuff. But outside of that, this is probably one of the coolest tech choiced out builds for the meta you can actually have. And we have a Snake Eyes challenger for you here. Now, I know we're pretty sick of Snake Eyes after the last, chunk of everything that we just tore through today for this, but I want to talk about Metaltronics down here. So let you target one face-up non-token monster your opponent controls. So also summon one monster from your hand deck or extra deck that has 2 or more of the same type, attribute, and or attack, but negate its effects. And if you do, that targeted monster's effects also, after that, if these monsters have the same name, you can banish both face down. Your opponent cannot activate the targeted monster's effects in response to this card's activation. This is on a quick play. This is going to give you some pretty interesting little tech choices to kind of handle things out here in the mirror. And I didn't really think that Matronus would be a card that we would be looking at out here and going, hey, this is a consideration point for the mirror match for things. And honestly, I don't think the OCG really had a chance to kind of explore this card maybe in the facet that we are here in the TCG, because I can look at this and I can tell you there are a lot of stupid things that you can probably do in this matchup, especially, just to be able to kind of detour your opponent in terms of their active tech choices. We do see the Ghost Mourners making a very strong showcasing here. Crossouts also are going to be a very strong choice out here as well. You got to keep in mind with the way that the meta is right now, you need to make sure that you can punish the opponent as hard as possible, and there are going to be a lot of times where you're going to get straight blown out. It's very unfortunate, but Crossout is here to try to prevent, just getting sacked out of left field. Yeah, trust me, it's rough some days out here when your opponent just opens up so many hand traps to punish you. And our last list here is Tempai Senpai. This is, we're actually playing the Vorp Gate down here. You got your decisions. Do you want to dedicate to the Vorp Gate, or do you want to play, tech slots with the Samurai Destroyer? I almost kind of think having, obviously the staple versions of these is pretty good. You still do have the Moonlight down here. In terms of the deck build itself, you do see the shifters in the main deck. I've been reading the Tempai group. They've been having some pretty interesting discussions. Do you want to focus on having the shifters in the main or the side? And a lot of this, I'm going to tell you, is going to be very dependent on, your local metagame. Do you think you're going to have more of a need for this in the main or the side? And honestly, it can go either way. But for a higher tier event like a YCS, you're going to want to make sure you can have this card to sweep up a lot more of these graveyard reliant decks. The entire purpose of this deck is just to ignorantly push and go. And it does it so freaking easily. Like, it's actually insane. Also kind of cool down here. See that we're playing the Ambler Whale instead of the Raging Phoenix, but I guess having the extra pressure from this card can actually kind of help out in a lot of situations. So, okay, I'll say that. It all comes down to tech choices, tech choices, tech choices. Yeah, we're no real strangers to seeing how that actually works. So, this is some very interesting stuff. I like what I am seeing out here. So please, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think, and I will see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Definitely one of the best YCSs I've seen in terms of patrons. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.